Fasten your seatbelts for the realest Eagles and Sixers YouTuber! One who plays no clickbait and gets to the point! The myth, the legend, Nicky Stees! Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. I'm simply statue, think they slate, dropping unrealistic mags, 2K takes for the clip. Even though cats like that get views closer to the milli, never hear me preach, flip on to Philly. Before you watch the Eagles all the way through the early 22, authentic talk, forget what others do. Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. The 24/7, 365 way. Sports content for the reals to fill the day. Hello, happy Friday evening. Hope you're having a great start to your weekend, and welcome to Eagles versus Buccaneers Week 4 preview with your boy, Nicky Stees. If you haven't done so already, make sure to like and subscribe to both the Hardcore Sports Network and Nicky Stees channel. Got Daniel Barry, one of our regular follows. Got Little G Griffith. I lost 4 pounds today. Congratulations on your accomplishment. And keep it going. Yes, folks, let's do this. So we're going to get into it. We're going to talk a little bit about the Eagles versus the Buccaneers. But before I get into that, there is one small thing, Eagles related, that I want to talk to. There is a possibility, it's been discussed, that Hassan Reddick could return to the Eagles, but we don't know if that's going to happen. Now we got Greg John popping in as well, another regular supporter. Now with Reddick, though, it's been just, he's been holding out with the Jets. It's been a nasty holdout. And it's at the point now where he wants to trade out, even though he was traded in April from the Eagles to the Jets. It's been discussed he could return to the Eagles, and supposedly he's expressed interest in returning. However, let's get a couple things straight. Number one, just because he says he's interested doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. And number two, he was the one who initially wanted a trade. He's the one who was interested in trying to find another option in the first place. Now he wants to return. He's at least interested possibly in returning. That right there can speak to his temperament as a teammate. And not to mention, if he ever does end up playing a game for another team, that would be his 4th different team he's played on in his career, because the Eagles were his 3rd. And while he was nice for the Eagles for the 2 seasons we had him, and he was a key piece of that defense, he has gone from team to team to team before. So this somewhat speaks to his character. So even though he's great on the field, at this point, is he really the best presence in the locker room, though? There is a bit of a question about that. And Matt Walsh on Twitter posed the question wondering, is he in shape? Good question. Is he in shape? Is he in a good enough? We don't know. But let's not get too in that, because to me, this whole Hassan Reddick talk's a bit of a distraction, because we don't know if it's going to happen or not, but just because it could doesn't mean it will, number one. And number two, it's a distraction from focusing on the Buccaneers game. So we're not really going to get into that now. If there's a possibility it could happen, we'll go on with that. But for as of now, let's talk about the game. So Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we play the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. Technically our 2nd road game, but kind of unofficially our 3rd. We are minus 1.5 point favorites in this one. It is a close margin, but we are the favorites. However, we know the one key factor for this is going to be the injury report. And I looked at the depth chart. Look at the depth chart today via ESPN. It tells us so far that all these guys are questionable. The main guys are mouth injuries. We'll pull it up for you in 1 second, folks. It tells us that some of our key guys are questionable for Sunday as of right now. So as of right now, you got, AJ, Devontae questionable, Lane Johnson questionable. In all of our defensive guys, there's no question marks on the defense for all our guys. At least appear to be healthy going into this. Should be healthy going into this one, barring a freak injury out the blue. However, we're going into this one healthy on defense. Offense, we're still AJ Brown. Well, he did practice today, so he might be able to give it a go. Might. But we don't know. Because remember, he's dealing with a hamstring injury, and for a wide receiver who runs a lot, it's all going to depend on, and it's going to depend on how he feels come game day. So he's going to probably be a game time decision. And secondly, with AJ Brown, even if he does go, will he be able to go all game? Will he have to come out of the game at some point? Or will he be in and out of the lineup if he does play at all? That's the question there. And for Devontae Smith, while he's listed as questionable, I think most likely he's not going to be cleared. Lane Johnson, he was further ahead in the concussion protocol, so there is a chance, but I doubt it. I doubt they're going to play. And we know Britton Covey, he's out on IR. He's not coming in. But we do got to consider the possibilities. If AJ and Smitty can't go, you're going to have to go with Johnny Wilson, Paris Campbell, and Jahan Dotson, and then Dallas Goedert at tight end. So there are possibilities we could be seeing Johnny Wilson and Paris Campbell be getting some playing time for us on Sunday, and Jahan Dotson be the number one receiver in terms of who Hurts goes to if both guys can't go on Sunday. So that's something that could be possible out of the injury report, but we don't know. The thing is, it's tough to talk about because either way, it's going to affect our game plan no matter what. If you can't get AJ or Devontae Smith on the field, that affects their game plan for sure. Dallas Goedert's going to be your number one guy you go to in the offense for receptions behind Jahan Dotson, and you're hoping Johnny Wilson, Paris Campbell could be productive if you have to rely on those guys. And then you primarily focus on the run game with Saquon, which you do no matter what, what the Eagles should be doing no matter what. They should be relying heavily on the run game with Saquon because he's our top guy in this offense. The play calling should be mainly about Saquon getting the ball. But either way, with the passing game, it's all going to depend on whether or not AJ and Smitty can play. Particularly AJ. Smitty's unlikely, though. But I should focus mainly on AJ Brown because he's the most likely to play, but he's still questionable. Smitty least likely between the two receivers. Lane Johnson, even though he's an offensive lineman, he's a vital part of that offensive line. He's the main guy and the main leader on this offensive line now that Kelsey's retired. But we'll still have to wait and see what's going to happen, though. But I do think no matter what happens, you got to go with the run game primarily. But I'll get more into that with their keys to victory. But depending on whether or not, whether A.J. Brown can go or not, it's going to have a big effect on the play calling and our offense for this game. Now, moving on to our opponents for a little bit, we're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll talk about them for a few minutes because we got to at least give them acknowledgement. Now, the Buccaneers, they are 2-1 in the season. But when I look closer at it, which I did earlier today, they have struggled in their last two games. Even in that win against the Lions, they struggled. I'm going to pull up the stats for you guys and share it with you. So we're taking a look at the week 2 Lions versus Bucs to show that even though the Bucs got the upset and moved to 2-0, they did struggle. Now let's take a look. The main thing that won them this game was their defense getting 2 picks, as you see. Goff did throw 2 picks in that game. But let's take a look at the team stats that'll prove it. So you got team stats. Total yards, the Lions outdid the Bucs in total yards. got more first downs, converted more on third down, and even had a few fourth down conversions. And then you had the Lions got to Baker Mayfield 5 times during that game. And then you look time of possession. All that was in favor of the Lions. Detroit Lions pretty much for the most part outplayed the Buccaneers minus those 2 picks. And the Buccaneers defense played a key role in that. And you look total rushing yards, they only had 70 rushing yards. So the point being is the Lions did for the most part outplay the Bucs even in the Buccaneers 20-16 win against them week 2. Now we take a look at the Broncos game last week but before we do that, actually, I do feel it's fair to point out Baker Mayfield did do pretty solid in that game. 12 for 19, 185 yards. But even then, they didn't really go pass with him. Now we're going to take a look at the Broncos game. You're going to see the struggles carried over into last week for the Bucs as well. Let's take a look at it right here. So the Bucs, they gave up 7 sacks against them, and they only had a total of 91 rushing yards. And then they had a lost fumble and an interception. They got outplayed back-to-back weeks. Their offensive line's not looking too hot. So the Buccaneers are a flawed team, which is why the Eagles, despite being the favorites in this one, or the Eagles, despite being injured, my bad, are the 1.5 point favorites. But I'm going to have to stop aside just for a second. When I come back, I'll give you guys the keys to victory. Give me one moment. I'll be right back in a minute. Put some non-copyright music in the background. When I get back, we'll go over the keys to victory. All right, I am back, folks, after that short break. Now, we're going to talk quickly about the Eagles' key matchup versus the Buccaneers. There's one more thing I wanted to point out. The Buccaneers will be going into this matchup down Antoine Winfield Jr., which that'll be a blow for their secondary. So the Eagles aren't the only ones dealing with issues in the passing game, but we're going to take a look at the Buccaneers depth chart real quick via ESPN, and then they'll go through their roster, see who's questionable, see who's active. And then we'll go through the key matchups from there. And then after that, we're going to close this thing out with the keys to victory. And we look at, you got Bucky Irving, questionable, Rashad White, running back in there. But the Bucs running game hasn't really been that potent this season. They haven't had any big running games for their running backs. They're going heavily on the pass game with this one, involving Evans, Godwin. In the defensive side, but you got Cansey's out. Antoine Winfield Jr., those two are confirmed out. Vita Vea is questionable. You got right tackle Luke Gukdik. Wait, let's try that. Luke Gogdick, he's out. No, he's questionable. Luke Goddik's questionable. And Jalen McMillan's doubtful. And those are going to be key match. So the Bucs do have some injuries there, but some of the key matchups into this one right here, I feel like are the Bucs offensive line, which has been struggling, versus the Eagles defensive line, particularly Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. Can this Eagles defensive line that hasn't really been getting a lot of pass rush get to the quarterback in this one against a struggling offensive line? There's one key matchup. Second's going to be Jalen Hurts versus this Buccaneers defense, because the Bucs defense, remember, they got 2 picks on Jared Goff week 2 and helped the Bucs secure a win there. And knowing Jalen Hurts has met several turnovers in some of these games, particularly weeks 1 and week 3, he had a fumble and interception early. Can the Bucs defense do something to Hurts? Or can Hurts turn around, not make those careless mistakes? That's another key matchup in this game. And another possible matchup on the sideline is Sirianni versus Kellen Moore, which it is because will Nick Sirianni stands in the way with Kellen Moore? And will it possibly lead to some issues on the sideline between them? Or will Kellen Moore be able to call the plays without any issue? Now, for the on-the-field matchups, we're going to have to see it's this Eagles secondary versus Evans and Godwin. There's another key matchup right there. Can these guys in the secondary shut down 2 of the Bucs' 2 main weapons that have been there consistently in Evans and Godwin? They were both there for that Super Bowl run with Brady, and they're still there in the Baker Mayfield era. Can the Eagles secondary keep up with them? Last week, the defense as a whole did its thing, but can they do it again this week? Particularly the secondary going against 2 of the top weapons the Bucs have. And then, of course, you're going to have Saquon versus the Bucs run defense. We'll see what happens there. Those are my main matchups right here in this one. Now, let's move along to the keys to victory to wrap this thing up, shall we? Keys to victory for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's going to be number 1 key to victory is have competent play calling, especially off the heels of what happened 1 week ago in week 3, where the play calling was questionable, particularly going for it on 4th down twice when you're in field goal range with no conversion. Play calls like that, you just wonder, what the fuck are you guys doing? Can Nick Sirianni just have some competent play calling? Can he just let Kellen, or can he just stop aside, let Kellen Moore call the plays, let him call a decent game, let him run the ball inappropriately, send Jake Elliott out if we're in field goal range instead of trying to go for it on 4th down in field goal range when you don't need to? I mean, those are the things like that stand out. Just call competent plays. Don't try to force the pass. Let the run do its thing and set up the pass. Let the pass happen when it's time to, and call the runs. So that's one of the keys right there, is just call a competent game. Second key to victory that'll tie me into is focus on Saquon in the running game. You're going to, at this point, pretty much be down at least one of your 2 main wide receivers. You're hoping to get A.J. Brown back, but you don't know as of now you're going to rely on Saquon. You're going to focus primarily on the run game to get the job done. So make that a focal point. Make sure you feed Saquon the ball. Let him break the game open. If you have to let Hurts use his legs on a few running back draws, do the tush push, short yard situations with Cam Jurgens, you do so. But yeah, primarily focus on the run game in this one because that's going to be the main focal point for the offense. Another one, speaking of offense, is limit the turnovers. We've seen Hurts, like I said, weeks 1 and 3, he had one pick and a fumble in those ones. Like, he's got to at least limit it with the interceptions. He's got to. Especially in this matchup, you're going down some of your main wide receivers. You got to limit the turnovers. You got to. And another reason why is because if Jalen Hurts keeps up this bad habit of a few turnovers early, it could become a problem later on down the line and the season goes along. But let's try to break out of that now while it's still early. My last main key to victory, I kind of alluded to it earlier when I was talking about the Bucs offensive line struggling. With that being said, blitz. Get some pressure on the quarterback. If there was ever one game to bring the house, send Jalen Carter, send Jordan Davis up the middle, get some pressure, force a few sacks. This is it. Because in the past 2 games, the Bucs have given up a total of 12 sacks in 2 games. Baker Mayfield's been dropped 12 times, 7 times against the Broncos, 5 in their win against the Lions. If you're that Eagles defensive line, get some pressure on the QB and drop Baker a few times. That Buccaneers offense is vulnerable to giving up sacks. So bring the house, get some sacks. This is the game to do it. And furthermore, you're talking about it because if you do that, you limit the efficiency of Evans and Godwin in the pass game. And their run game, if you look at it, they're not that competent. They don't have exactly a strong run game either. So if you bring the heat, you take away their main strength, which is the passing game. Something we failed to do week 2 against the Falcons that we did do a better job of against the Saints. And those are my 4 main keys to victory. If you guys want to add your own keys to victory in the chat, not the private chat, in the chat, feel free to do so in the comments. Let me know what are some of your additional keys to victory. But 4 predictions in this one. Well, I have jinxed the Eagles the last 2 weeks. Jinxed the outcome, I should say. Last week I had the Saints winning because I wasn't confident. Eagles won. Week 2, I had the Eagles winning and they blew it. But, okay, week 4, as of now, I'll go with the Eagles in this one by a score of, say, 20-12. Say, like the Bucs, I think the Eagles, they find ways to get to Baker Mayfield. They'll at least get some sacks going, and they should be able to at least come through with the victory. Hopefully I don't jinx them in this one. The offense finds a way to at least get 1 touchdown, maybe 2, a few field goals, but hopefully I don't jinx it. But you guys can always give me your predictions in the chat. But that's all I got for you for this one, for this Eagles versus Bucs week 4 preview. We will have to actually see what happens during the game. Hopefully the Eagles will get the W. Hopefully we'll be flapping our arms, doing the fly, Eagles fly, and we'll be up to 3-1. That would be phenomenal. But we will ultimately have to see if that happens. So, that being said, I want to thank everyone who tuned in, who decided to start their weekend off. Grega John, Daniel Berry, Little G Griffin, and anyone else that tuned in for this episode to start your weekend, or if you caught this on the replay, either on YouTube or Spotify, thanks for doing so. I hope you enjoyed this. Before I go, friendly reminder to everyone who hasn't, make sure you subscribe to both the Nikki Stees channel and the Hardcore Sports Network if you haven't done so. so you don't miss any. And most of all, to everyone that watched, thanks for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. Fly, Eagles, fly. Let's get this W. I'll catch you back Tuesday for the post-game recap. So until next time, fly, Eagles, fly. Your boy, Nicky Stees, signing off.